Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's edition, I want to talk about, is the Peloton getting faster than 2018 since 2018 up now till 2024? I've spoken a little bit about Ineos's preparation for the Tour de France, about how I said I think they need to start hunting for stages in the last video of Beyond the Coverage. And then there was a few comments in there talking about, Chris, you haven't followed the watts. Geraint Thomas and Egan Bernal have said they've produced their best numbers. That's not true. They have not produced their best numbers. But has the Peloton as a whole from 2018, 2019 up to 2024, are they riding better? Are they more professional? I believe the Peloton is more professional, is producing as a whole better numbers. But I don't believe that Geraint Thomas and Egan Bernal, with that 2018 win from Geraint Thomas at the Tour de France and the 2019 from Egan Bernal, I don't believe that those guys can't win bike races with that kind of form. So I question when they say, where the commenters are saying that Egan Bernal and Geraint Thomas have said they've produced their best watts and the Peloton's just getting faster. I don't question that it's becoming more professional. I don't question that the Peloton as a whole has increased their level. But with the exception of Tadej Pogačar, Jonas, Primož, and Remco Evenepoel, those four riders could be producing better numbers than Geraint Thomas in 2018 and better numbers than Egan Bernal in 2019. But the rest of the Peloton, no way. I don't believe it. I don't believe that Geraint Thomas 2018, when he was dominating on Alpe d'Huez and dropping Tom Dumoulin and Chris Froome, and remember, I've been on Chris Froome's wheel before. I know what kind of power numbers he can pull. And I don't believe they're pulling better numbers than what we saw Chris Froome winning and dominating Tour de France's and Grand Tours when he's won the Vuelta a España and when he's won the Giro d'Italia. Because remember, he won the Tour de France, 2017, the Tour. He won the Tour of Spain afterwards. And he did the trifecta all continuously in 2018 when he won the Giro. When he went to the Tour de France in 2018, of course he wanted to win that year, but he couldn't follow the wheel of Geraint Thomas. And I believe the numbers that Geraint Thomas pulled in 2018 would win him a lot of races in 2024. So when I look at those comments, no way. I'm calling BS on those comments. I don't think the professional Peloton has advanced so much that Geraint Thomas and Egan Bernal with 2018 and 2019 form couldn't be winning races. Now, again, I don't think they beat Tadej Pogačar's power, but Tadej Pogačar's not at every race. When we start looking at all of the races that Geraint Thomas did in 2024, he hasn't won or even been up in the top of the Peloton. He's not even in the front of the group until the Giro started. At the Giro in 2024, he was solid. He's in the front group. But every time Tadej Pogačar attacked, he couldn't even follow the move of Danny Martinez. He was always had to back off. He always wisely backed off, waited for the group behind, and even on the last final climb, he backed off. He waited for Valentin Perepenta from AG2R, who I believe is one of those riders who has gotten better. So I believe the Peloton has gotten better and more professional than my time. But Geraint Thomas in 2023, even if we just go 2023 at the Giro, he doesn't get caught from the group behind. He's up there either following the wheel of Tadej Pogačar, probably not, but he's certainly up there pulling with Danny Martinez. And those two riders would be able to stay away from Bahrain Victoria's chasing back there and from AG2R chasing back there for sure. And then sometimes from Ben O'Connor back there chasing too. Those two riders with the kind of form that Geraint Thomas had, and he's helping Danny Martinez, they don't get caught from the group behind. That tells me that Geraint Thomas's form is not as good even as 2023 at the Giro, which tells me he could get better for the Tour de France, certainly. And if you look at 2018 form, he could get a lot better. Because when we look at the comments again and they say, well, these two said they pulled the best numbers ever. Chris, you're not paying attention. No, they have not pulled the best numbers. If they want to release their numbers to me, I'll be more than happy to cover and compare the numbers that they've pulled in 2023. And I'll even go to certainly 2024, and I'll even go to 2023 and compare those numbers. But it won't be anything like the numbers we saw in 2018 when Geraint Thomas won his Tour de France and he was just doing whatever he wanted to do to the professional Peloton at the Tour de France. That kind of form is night and day difference than anything we've seen from Geraint Thomas since. And even in 2019 when he lost to Egan Bernal, I remember while working for NBC that Geraint Thomas said, I just don't have the kind of legs that I had last season where I could do just whatever I wanted to on the climb. That's a big time difference in form when you're doing whatever you want to the best riders in the world in 2018, and when you're only capable of following the riders in the professional peloton in 2019 when he loses that tour. But following is a completely different. When you're attacking, you're going one step. When you're riding the front of the group of favorites back there, you're at another step. When you're riding in the group of favorites but rotating through, that's another step. When you're holding on for dear life like he was at the Giro in 2024, that's 4 steps behind from what we saw at the Tour de France in 2018. So his form has not been as good as it was. But I do believe the professional peloton since 2018, and certainly if I take you back into my days when I rode with FDJ in 1997, they weren't as professional in 1997 as they are nowadays. Now they're super strict. They have a little bit better understanding of calories needed for the races, when to diet, when not to diet. I can tell you a story in 1997, 98, 99 when I was riding for FDJ, where the nutritionists on the team were telling us that when you get done racing, you shouldn't eat anything for 2 hours after the race and you should only drink water. And I remember thinking, I must have misunderstood him. I didn't speak French fluently. I'm not fluent now, and my English isn't that good either, as you guys know. But I spoke enough to understand that 2 hours after the race, you shouldn't drink anything but water. And just to make sure that I was hearing that correctly, I looked over at my French teammate who did speak English and French, of course. And I looked over him and I said, hey, did he just say we're only supposed to drink water for 2 hours? And my French teammate said, yes, when you get done with the race, you only drink water for 2 hours and then you start eating. I thought that was crazy. So when you start looking at stories like that from the 90s and stories of where the riders were out partying all the time, I can certainly remember a few paid-for women showing up at the hotels and some partying nights that a lot of the riders were doing. I wasn't one of them. Guys, alcohol, beer goes bad in my fridge here at my house. I only have it so that when people come over, I don't party, I don't get drunk. It's pretty rare. Once, twice a season, but it would never happen at a bike race, ever. But when you look at those stories and you start hearing about where people were out late night partying, they soigneurs had to come in and wake them up after only 3 hours and hung over and put them on the bike, and then they win a stage and a grand tour afterwards after they partied all night. Yes, the peloton has gotten better, and certainly from 2018, even when we see Garrett Thomas' Tour de France win, Egan Bernal's Tour de France win, I believe the peloton has even gotten more professional, and the level has come up from the lower levels, have brought them up closer to Garrett Thomas and Egan Bernal. But those two riders' level has dropped down, and that's why they're getting surpassed. The only guys in the professional peloton at this moment, realistically, that I think's outperforming Garrett Thomas's 2018 Tour de France and Egan Bernal's 2019 form that he had throughout 2019. Because let me remind you, Egan Bernal won Paris-Nice that year. He won Tour of Swiss that year. He won the Tour de France. He won Piemonte, a one-day race in 2019. So when we're comparing those, I believe those riders have dropped. The other riders have gotten a bit better, and they have surpassed those riders. But if those riders got back up to their top quality form, they would be finishing just behind, or at least with riders like Adam Yates, with Carlos Rodriguez. They would be riding with those type of riders and finishing and winning races throughout the 2024 season and the 2023 season if they had that 18-19 form. But as a whole, do I believe the peloton's getting better? Every year, I think they're getting more professional, more precise with their diet, more precise with their training, more precise with their sleeping, and everything that they need to focus just on the racing. And really, I think the most thing that they can do now in terms of marginal gains is I think they should start racing a little bit more intelligently when we start looking at races like Tour of Swiss, where Egan Bernal had his team on the front for UAE Team Emirates. I don't understand why he did that, but you could save some marginal gains if tactically they just race better. So you can make up some energy if you're racing better, and it doesn't even cost you anything. You just have to become a little bit wiser and a little bit smarter up there, and then you're saving energy, which means you're racing better. But as a whole, the peloton has gotten better. The riders have become more professional. Egan Bernal, and when we're talking Garrett Thomas, I don't care what they've said in interviews, their form does not compete to what we saw in 2018 and 2019. And if they told you they had better numbers, which the commenters had left below inside the last video that I did for Beyond the Coverage, that they said they did. So if they said that, and I'm pretty certain I remember them saying it too, it was only for one moment or one tiny section. Maybe they pulled a 10-minute better window or a 20-minute better window. But as a whole, there is no way Garrett Thomas Egan Bernal are on their kind of form from 2018 and 2019. Otherwise, we'd see for sure a bunch of wins under their belts in the 2024 season. There's no doubt about that in my mind. So when you start watching the riders, when you start looking at some of the information that they're telling you, if they can't back it up with the actual numbers, it probably didn't happen. That's the way I see it up here on Beyond the Covers. Hope you guys enjoyed my take here. Short, easy, fast one here on today. But we got the Tour de France coming up in less than 2 weeks' time. Hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys for the next edition real soon.